Howdy readers, I'm Jason. This is Chapter and Verse, and this is the third installment of my Oscar and Lucinda read-along. Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey, the Australian novelist, although he has lived in New York City for, I want to say like the last 30 years or something like that. So he's probably as much an American now. Actually, he is as much an American now as he is Australian, given that his novel, Parrot and Olivier in America, was not only shortlisted for the Booker Prize, but was shortlisted for the National Book Award, which is an award only open to American citizens. So, he has dual citizenship, does Peter Carey. But anyway, so in this video, we will be covering chapters 58 through 79. And when I say covering, this is not exhaustive, right? I'm just going to touch on things. There are going to be whole swaths of the text that I don't mention or talk about at all. Primarily what I want to talk about in this video is what the novel has to say about Christian character. But before we get to that, I just want to kind of carry over from the previous videos, just some further examples of some of the prose that I really love in this book, and also some of the wonderful insights that Peter Carey has into his characters, the way that they are able to kind of turn their powers of observation inward and really see themselves at times, and the ways in which they're able to turn those powers of observation outward. First, a couple of examples of prose from this section of the book that I just really love. So the first one is on page 249 in my edition. Lucinda is in a what's called a pakapoo parlor, and she is gambling. She had been told that these characters represented virtues. She had trouble recognizing them in this light. There was the one with the roof, the one with the two F's standing huffily back to back, the one with eyes like a cat staring from the grass, the one like a river. Jesus Christ Almighty, dear Lord, forgive her. She had 8 correct. So a couple of things in this paragraph that I just really love, right? The one like a river, dear Lord, forgive her, right? That just sounds so lovely. It's so beautiful together. But the thing that I'm really tickled by in this paragraph, the one with the 2 F's, right? Capital F, little s. The one with the 2 F's standing huffily back to back. So I just love that Carey uses the word huffily right there. And again, right, it's on purpose, right? He is aware of the words that he's using. Just on down, sentence by sentence, he is so careful and so precise and so mischievous with his word choices at times. It's just refreshing and invigorating to read. So, with the 2 F's standing huffily back to back. And then on 275, let's see here. There we are. Yeah, and this, again, this isn't playful writing. It's beautiful, but beyond being beautiful, it is just, it's so accurate and original, right? The way in which he describes this scene. It's so clear that one actually can't imagine a better way of describing the scene. He had taken her out into the yard where the window glass was being packed into wooden crates. The wood was newly sawn and sweet and sappy in the spring air. Yellow straw was lifted by the nor'easter and hung like scratches in the sky, right? The straw being lifted by the winds, hanging like scratches in the sky. If you can think of a better way to articulate how that would look than describing the straw as being like scratches, hanging like scratches in the sky, Be my guest. But I think Carrie's kind of he's just done it, right? He's put that one to bed. Yeah, it's brilliant prose, right? And it's just another example. I mean, there are hundreds of pages of this, but it's just one of the ones that really jumps out at me most. Is that sentence. And then as far as the insight, right, into the characters, right, on the very next page, on 276, I just find this so moving, right? I find it so moving to think of a character being aware of this in herself, right? Because I think it's the kind of thing that we're not very good about owning this sort of thing or admitting to this sort of thing. They posted their letters. She tried not to watch Oscar count out his farthings to make up the price of the stamps. She saw the back of his hands marked with their praying stab wounds. She had never before, in all her life, been aware of causing so much harm. Right? She had never before, in all her life, been aware of causing so much harm. You know, it's one thing, I think, to recognize that in oneself when we have hurt someone. And it's another thing altogether to own it like Lucinda does in this moment. You know, she's not just recognizing that she's played some role in what has befallen Oscar, but she's recognizing it in the context of her entire life. And yeah, I just don't think as human beings we're very good at that. And I love that Carrie gives her that depth of insight into her own character, into her own past. Again, right? It's one of those instances in the book where the characters they come alive. They feel deeply, deeply real and fully realized in a way that most characters in novels just don't. And then on 287, Lucinda is having a conversation with Mr. Dabbs. And we have this. The things that moved Mr. Dabbs were clear to Lucinda. She was embarrassed for him. Not that he should be so pleased about himself, but that he should reveal his pleasure so clearly. Okay? Now, what is remarkable about that bit of writing, right? Carrie observing Lucinda, observing Mr. Dabbs, is just how it burrows into the strata of Mr. Dabbs, right? She's embarrassed for him, not because he's standing there smug as he is, but that he, for whatever reason, is thinking so little of standing there smug before her, right? That's the thing that she's embarrassed about for him. That's the thing that is appalling her. It's less his smugness than that he cares so little that he's as smug as he is. And that's just, like I said, it's remarkable writing, right? It's so perceptive. There's so many layers to it, and Carrie just kind of tosses it off, right? I mean, he has moments like this all throughout this book, and we read novels all the time that just the novelists have it's not even that they for some reason are incapable of relating this depth of insight in their characters, but you get the sense when you read most novels that the novelists themselves aren't even aware of this kind of thing in themselves, in their own lives, and you can't put onto a page something that you yourself have no kind of emotional experience of, right? I'm not talking about the plots and writing characters who've done things different from what you've done in your own life. I'm not talking about that. You can't convincingly body forth the inner life, the emotional life of a character, unless you have experienced those things yourself, right? And again, not events, but emotions and observations. Which leads me to believe that Carrie himself is a person who just devours the world around him, and not just devours it, but reflects on it. I am so grateful that there is prose like this in novels out there, because it seems to me a pretty rare thing. But oh, I hear the kitty just got out of bed. Blue decided he's had enough sleep for this morning. So anyway, so there's that. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video is just some of the stuff that Carrie's doing a lot with religion in this book, a lot. And I will talk a lot more about that in my last video. But here I want to just address, what he's doing with regard to the character of a Christian. And the thing is, so I've read a lot of criticism on this book over the years, particularly when I was writing my thesis. And a ton of critics, a ton of academics have come to the conclusion that this novel is a condemnation of Christianity as a tool of colonialization, right? And I have never seen it that way. I just don't see it that way. I feel like it's a portrait of and the commentary on Christianity are far more complex than that pretty simplistic reading, I think. So the novel is contradictory about religion. It is ironic. It is profound. It is comic. It is disquieting. It is frank. It is tender. And the thing is, the book is honest about Christians because it is honest about people, right? Hypocrisy and pettiness are no less prevalent in Christians than they are in anyone else. Lucinda's servant, her maid, Mrs. Smith, is every bit as inclined to shelter and care for and heal Oscar as Lucinda is. But we remember her as uncharitable because of the pivot, because of the turn that she takes, right? But it's important to remember that her instinct, her first instinct, Mrs. Smith's first instinct is to shelter and to heal this man who has been cast aside, right? Is bereft. She doesn't know what the circumstances are, but her initial instinct is that it doesn't matter, that she doesn't care. Okay, but then she goes to church, she finds out who he is, and she determines that she can't be party to a scandal, and so she removes herself from the situation, right? The hypocrisy comes in. But it's important to see, to remember that she exhibits, that she inhabits both sides of that coin, as does Lucinda, right? Lucinda takes Oscar in, right, and is hell-bent on caring for him and sheltering him, protecting him from judgment from the world. And but at the same time, right, they have that scene on 310, and she is justified. She's absolutely justified in feeling what she does. Being upset by and offended by and hurt by the actions of Arthur Phelps and the glass workers working under him, employed by her, and the way in which they welcome Oscar with open arms and refuse to do so with her, right? At the top of 310, she put a smile on her face and despised them all as fools. She was belligerently unchristian. And so that's the thing about this novel, right? Is that it's giving us characters who are just absolutely real. Okay, it doesn't pretend that Christians are meant to be saints. I mean, almost from the very beginning in the book, we have Oscar and Wardley Fish, right, who are wrestling with their own addiction to gambling. These are both men of the cloth. But they have this weakness, right? This habit, this talent for sin, if you will. And they wrestle with it, right? That's the thing I love so much about this book, is that it's unapologetic about presenting people as they are, and that means Christians too, right? It's a novel full of contradictions, and as such, it seems to me an uncannily honest piece of work. And I, for one, just really appreciate that about it. How wonderful and refreshing to encounter a novel that understands the contradictions in human beings. So that's all I'm going to say about the book this time around. I'll be making a video this coming weekend on the final quarter of the novel, and I'll be talking in that video at length about a lot of stuff that actually appears in the first quarter of the book, primarily with respect to religion, and something kind of grand, I suppose, that Carrie is attempting to do in the book. But anyhow, I hope you're enjoying it. Some of you I know have already finished it, so that's wonderful. For those of you who have finished it, I hope you liked it, and let me know what you thought or what you're thinking if you're still plowing through it in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys again very soon. Adios.